Man, I need one of these at home. Good afternoon. I'm David Baer. Welcome to the August 8th Tourist Development Council meeting. At this time, I will ask Danielle Cooper if she will, well, first, was the meeting properly advertised?
Yes, on August 3rd.
Great, thank you. And if you would, please call the roll.
Jeff Bagash,
Here.
James Reeves, Mary Hoxing,
Here.
Shirley Cronley,
Here.
David Baer,
Here.
Ronald Rivera,
Here.
Matish Patel,
Here.
Tinyade Burton, I'm sorry about that, and Casey Jones.
And we have a quorum.
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right. At this time, we welcome comments from the public. I see a lot of people here, but I only have one card filled out. If you would like to speak, where Ajit Patel is signing a card right now. No cards? There's not a, is there something to? Oh, they are, okay. Maybe Tom didn't want anybody else to speak. He wants all 3 minutes. I don't know if everybody is here to speak or not, but we will limit public speaking to 3 minutes. Ronnie will be our timekeeper because we have a lot of discussion on this agenda today. You may, if you'd like to speak, please introduce yourself when you come to the microphone. You may speak on any item tourism related, whether it's on the agenda or not. And please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And when your time is up, please finish up your comment and move on, please. And so first, I will call on Tom Jardine.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Baer, and good afternoon, Council. My name's Tom Jardine. I live on Pensacola Beach, 1112 Vita Luna. I've been there for 26 years. I don't like how we're spending our tourism money, and I've got a lot of what I think are legitimate complaints about you guys. So here they go. I only got 3 minutes. One, I don't like that I only get one chance to speak today. I mean, you guys don't meet that often, and you know, tourism is our #1 industry in this county. But you guys are inherently esoteric to begin with. Your meeting dates aren't really regular. You know, it's not like you do it every third Tuesday or anything like that. I gave you guys all a handout. This is a screenshot from the myescambia.com demonstrating that your workshop that was ultimately, May 16th was publicized for like May 9th at 10 a.m. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but I mean, you guys are the council. Why aren't you checking the website to make sure your times and dates are right? The same thing in April. The April 11th meeting was publicized to be March 9th at 10 a.m. And I thought maybe it was because Mr. Baer had a death in the family that it was changed. So I didn't really, but I take the day off of work to be here. And I took the day off of work, and there was no meeting. And then I saw it happen. At first I said, well, okay, he had a death in his family, all right. But then on the workshop, the same thing happened. Although that had a longer lead time. I knew that I didn't take the day off that time. But your roster is 9 months out of date now. Mr. Burgash has expired November of last year. So has Casey Jones and Jared Moore. They're still on your roster, even though they expired in November last year. This is just demonstrating to me that you guys are way too, there's 9 of you. How come you guys aren't on your own website making sure things are right for the public? Let's see. Lumen May was really the guy. I'm disappointed that he didn't take his turn. I mean, we don't have enough diversity, I don't think. Everything seems to be the city, I don't want to be divisive, but everything seems to be city of Pensacola centric. We on Pensacola Beach produce the lion's share of these tourist development taxes, and our elected official, Jeremy Johnson, should be on that council. You've got 2 council members from Pensacola, 0 from Pensacola Beach, none from Century either. I don't know if they're interested, but they should be. Let's see. I don't even know who Visit Pensacola is, to be honest with you. This is kind of like a very Byzantine, esoteric organization. We're putting way too much money into tourism advertising. There's not enough dissension on that board. Mr. Bear is rejecting nature. He doesn't want nature centers. Not one of you guys dissented from his opinion, okay? So I just want to close. I want to remind you all, moderation in your advocacy of the great citizens of Escambia County is no virtue.
Thank you, Mr. Jardine. Next speaker, Ajit Patel.
Hi, good afternoon, board. Ajit Patel. I own Days Inn here in Pensacola. Been in this city and ran this business since 1999. Seen Pensacola go through so many changes, seen Escambia County go through so many changes in that time. And I was fortunate enough to work with some other hospitality members to, spearhead this push for Visit Pensacola. I served as the treasurer of Visit Pensacola. I also sit on the Days Inn Franchise Advisory Council. I'm the chairman, we represent every Days Inn in the United States. And I'll say this much about marketing, is when you have size, it matters. Wyndham fights with Expedia, fights with Booking.com for a certain pot of money. Marketing is very sophisticated, and I don't see a push to try and take what you have to promote a county and spread it thin. So keep that in mind as things go along. It is really important. Size absolutely matters in hospitality. When you're competing against other counties, when you've got Okaloosa, when you've got Panama City, right? We need people to be aware. And if you take much needed money, much needed dollars that can be spent, online promoting Pensacola, Perdido Key, Escambia County, it is important. All right, so just keep that in mind, because I think it would be a big step backwards if you try to thin that pot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. All right. Next speaker is Pat McClellan. Where's Pat? There he is. I see the hat. And if anybody came in a few minutes late, would like to speak, there are some sign-up sheets on this front table over here. Just sign it up and hand it to Danielle, or just raise your hand and we'll get you signed up afterwards.
Thank you, David. Appreciate your time.
Yes,
I was told 3 minutes. I took some notes this time, so maybe I can get through this while rambling. I just want to introduce myself. Pat McClellan. I've been a registered voter of Perdido Key area since 1984. I've been married as long as I've been on the Chamber of Commerce, which is about 39 years now. And also was on the first board of directors for the Orange Beach Chamber of Commerce when it split from Gulf Shores, due to the fact that it had all the charter boat business and Gulf Shores has none. And that's when they first incorporated. We still are lost out there, however, because people cannot understand what a key is. When I first got out there, when I said Perdido Key, I thought I was in Key West. So I put on my business card, Perdido Key Beach. Okay, did that help? Well, a little bit, sort of. Early on, I'll tell you a story. A retired Navy captain by Bob Lynch was the director of our chamber. He was so frustrated about people trying to find Perdido Key, he personally went to Vulcan Sign Company and purchased directional signs to tell you how to get to Perdido Key, and posted it himself, all the way from the Pine Forest Road exit down W Street to, all the way down to Sorrento. But just recently, a renowned songwriter by the name of Don Schlitz, really great songwriter and singer, caught the Uber at the airport, and to his surprise, he ended up in Perdido Beach, Alabama, when he asked him to go to Perdido. Because obviously, nobody at the airport knows how to get to the Perdido Key, because if you look at the airport out there, there's not one sign that tells you, besides beaches, even when the bridge was out, that tells you how to get Perdido Key. So I'm just trying to tell you that it's been very difficult out there for people to do that. One of the reasons that we were not affected by 9/11 is because our market is SEC Drive. In other words, Southeast Conference folks come to our beaches, and they don't take a plane coming in necessarily, fortunately, because they can't find the airport, but we do need to get them in to our direction. There was at least one advertising executive from one of the fine businesses that help you downtown told me years ago that because of the unique logistical geographical location of Pretty Key, you've got to market and advertise it differently. It's kind of like, yeah, you don't take the Pine Forest Road exit, you get on the Bowen County Expressway to the Foley Beach Expressway. When you get at the Orange Beach, when it hits 161, you hit the Gulf of Mexico, you hang a Louie and go 5 miles, and you're in Florida. That's the easiest way to get there. I guess the bottom line is that you don't market Pretty Key like you do necessarily Pensacola, more like Orange Beach, Gulf Shores. It's ironic that the commissioner who supported our chamber the most also got in trouble by putting Pretty Key Beach on a sign because he wanted to get a directional sign for Florida Department of Transportation to tell him where the beaches are. He couldn't do that unless the beach was incorporated into the name of the beach.
Mr. McClellan, if you could.
All
please
right, well, it's time
wrap
to
up your
rediscover the beaches. So I'm telling you, I think that if you look around and look at all the designated tourist areas, you'll find that most every visitor center around the state are comprised of visitor centers with local people that have local interests out there in those areas out there, because they can answer all the questions for the tourists. And that's all I'm saying. Have a handle on all those people coming in there, tell them how to get there, where to go, and how to have a great time, because that's what it's about, the experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, our next speaker is Tammy Thoreau.
Commissioner, Council, thank you for allowing me to speak with you today. My name is Tammy Thoreau. I'm the Chamber of the Perdido Key Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here to represent our members of the Chamber and the community. As you know, 7 years ago, the unified budget was created for Escambia County. And when that happened, of course, we lost the visitor center and our marketing. The Chamber has requested to regain control over the management of the Perdido Key Visitor Center and your marketing efforts. We firmly believe that Perdido Key has not received the attention it deserves in terms of marketing, and that the efforts of Visit Pensacola has often led towards Pensacola Beach for various services. So they're basically sending people to Pensacola Beach. And that's fine. We have nothing against Pensacola Beach, but I am in the business of business, and I would like for our businesses, for our visitors to stay there and go to our restaurants and go to our events and go to Floribama, all those things that we have in Perdido Key. It's unfortunate that the marketing efforts by Visit Pensacola have not been satisfactory and that Perdido Key is not receiving the attention it deserves. We know effective marketing is crucial for attracting visitors, boosting tourism, and it seems that there's room for improvement in this area. I totally understand the importance of the unified budget, but it doesn't work for Perdido Key. We are different, and you all know that. We are a laid-back, beautiful, natural beach community. Just a couple of side notes here. The Perdido Key Chamber has shown that it can effectively manage the TDD dollars. Bad tax collections increased at record levels during the time period when the Perdido Key managed the budget independently. TDD collections is at current high, not just in Escambia County, but across the United States as a result of post-COVID travel. Perdido Key bed tax dollar increases are also impacted positively because we have new beds on the Key. I don't know how much. I think maybe Jeff could find that or share that with us, but that's why we've increased. Perdido Key Chamber does not have a problem with Visit Pensacola brand, but it does have a problem with the lack of Perdido Key representation in the marketing and promotion to visitors. This has been demonstrated by so many things. I'll give you a couple. There's just 3 uniquely Perdido Key Instagrams posts in the past year on the Visit Pensacola Instagram channel. The multiple shared posts were Perdido Key, Big Lagoon, Floribama, almost exclusively are included. Sometimes these locations are identified, sometimes they're not. Instagram, Facebook, Perdido Key locations are rarely identified as being located in Perdido Key. Instagram visitor questions are not answered. Facebook, there's no hashtags. We are lacking on our marketing. We would like to request the visitor center and the marketing. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Tammy. All right, that is all of the public speakers that we have. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak? Mr. Joseph? I got a question for you. Please come to the microphone. Introduce yourself.
Chris Dosef, resident of Pensacola. I just had a question. We're looking to speak after one of the agenda items is announced. Do I need to provide this then?
Yes, go ahead and give that to her. We're actually not going to take comments during our deliberation. We take
Right.
all public comments now. So if you'd like to speak to one of the agenda items, you may speak now.
Okay. Speaking on the agenda item that's going to be produced or brought forward by Councilman Tenata Broughton regarding General Chapter James.
Yes, sir.
We're looking to request, I was here, I think, 2 meetings prior where we had made a request for $1 million for the project. And at that time, I had told the board that we wouldn't need $1 million based on what we would receive from the state. Well, I'm very pleased to be able to announce that we did receive $700,000 from the state. The governor signed that as part of the budget, and that was all as a result of Senator Broxson. And in fact, we broke ground technically at the site about 2 weeks ago. So my request is, as I said then, I could do it, we could complete the project with $750,000 contribution by the TDC. We've already collected $600,000. We have the $700 coming from the state, and the other $700 would cap off the $2 million that we would need to provide for the building and construction of the actual plaza, the mounting of the aircraft, and then the flagpole and the statue. So I just want to bring that to your notice, especially in light of what we just did with the state. So know this, the city has participated, the state has participated, and we're hoping that through the TDC, that the county will have a part of participation. We're looking overall to raise $2.5 million, that excess money to be for the say, maintenance of the plaza to perpetuity, setting up an account to do that, and we do have a budget number on that work. So if anybody has any further questions later on, we're here representing the community here, and we can answer those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph.
Mr. Chairman, if I might?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, as we hear from the speakers, I just wanted to bring up a couple of points. There has been some consternation among some of the businesses in Perdido about the marketing, specifically out at Perdido Key and the west side. And I had a good, what I thought was a very productive meeting with Jared Schaefer and Brent Lane and some members from Perdido about that topic. And there were some things that I think are reasonable that were requested. Some things may have been unreasonable. Some dollar amounts might have been unreasonable. But I just wanted to let the board know that, you know, when visitors come to Perdido Key and they go in the visitor center there, they shouldn't have to be exposed to rack cards that have to be there, you know, that they're forced to put there on display prominently that you know, advertise out-of-town gambling casinos, for instance, or that say, welcome to I love Pensacola Beach, but when you're in Perdido Key at the visitor center, you shouldn't be confronted when you walk in the door, welcome to Pensacola Beach. It's not Pensacola Beach, it's different. It's different, and that's why there's some consternation among the members out there. As I explained at one of our previous meetings, and I've also spoke with my counterparts, I think there's a way to deal with the issues at Perdido Key and give them some autonomy. And I'm not trying to take anyone's advertising revenue away or knock over anyone's rice bowl, but they are a different community, 25 miles away from Pensacola Beach, and you know, this is a discussion that I'm going to have with my counterparts as well. You know, it doesn't have to be drastic, but when I have a very productive meeting, I thought it was productive, and then I don't get a call back, and then I get a call back and it says, well, we're not going to do anything. We'll try and do better. 100 social media posts. Pensacola Beach, downtown. Pensacola Beach, downtown. Again, nothing against Pensacola Beach. I love it. I have a condo there. I love it. But I represent Perdido Key. It's in my district. Not one hashtag out of 100. You go to the Visit Pensacola page page after page of beach items, page after page. You have to go through 8 pages, 12 entries per page before you find one Perdido Key. So they feel like they're not getting their share. They feel like they've been overlooked. Now, I understand there's people that say, well, wait, year-over-year revenue is fantastic. You're doing so much better. That's because there's been a lot of new condominiums that have come online. I'm waiting for confirmation on those numbers, but yeah, they are way up because we have a lot more growth in the number of beds going into Airbnb, VRBO, and Expedia than does Pensacola Beach, or downtown for that matter. So it can't be attributed to, well, we're doing a marketing campaign, and so, be happy with what you're getting. You're having year-over-year growth. Some of the businesses out there, when you have visitors walk into the visitor center, for instance, and they're looking for a nice restaurant, they should not be told by staff members, who, by the way, do not work for the people. They don't work for the Perdido Key Chamber. They don't work for people that are living out in Perdido Key. Visitors shouldn't walk into that chamber out there and be told, well, the restaurants here aren't that great. You ought to go to the Grand Marlin. You ought to go to Pensacola Beach. That's happened. So that's the reason why we're having this discussion right now. That's the reason why I sat down with Visit. We're looking for some middle ground, some compromise. But it's been like a one-way conversation. So, I'm going to bring this to my board, but I'd like to hear from you about some solutions and some ways that we can rectify it. Because this is the advisory board right here. We sit on the advisory board. And so I'd like to take some advice. And it's a two-way street. There are some other issues with nature centers, as you saw the other night. We knocked that off the agenda. We're bringing it back for advice. But the folks in Perdido kick out about 20% of all the TDT. Now, Pensacola Beach is the juggernaut, 46%. But Perdido Key puts out 20%, more than second most in the county. They deserve a little better. They deserve better. And that's what I'm going to work toward. So to all those from the hotels and motels that sent me emails, the same form letter over and over, I'm not here to destroy anyone's business. There's plenty of money. Remember, I'm the guy who got the 5th cent, right? And that was one free year of $2.75 million for extra advertising. I'm not afraid to go for more, but Perdido Key needs its share, and it needs to have some autonomy. That's what I'm saying. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. Thank you, Commissioner. Please, let's please hold your applause and boos till the end of the meeting, please.
Wait a minute. Did someone boo me?
Yeah, that was me. I'm sorry. Any other council members, before we move on in the agenda, have any comments?
Yeah, I would like to
Mr.
say
Patel?
something to that point. I understand Perdido doesn't get maybe some hashtags or Instagram posts but you know what? I got hotels on Highway 29, and I got hotels on Pine Forest Road, and I have a hotel near the Navy base on Warrington, and you'll never see a hashtag for Highway 29 that's positive. So I think
Please hold your applause.
I think we can't, and then again, the comment made about Grand Marlin, we get a lot of guests that come in and we'll try to say, hey, try this, and they'll say, well, actually, I don't want to do something at the beach. I want some downtown. So, of course, my staff is going to give the answer of what the guest wants. So if a guest walks into Perdido Key Chamber or wherever and asks for, hey, I want a restaurant at Pensacola Beach, you can't give them a restaurant in Perdido. They're going to be like, I didn't ask you for Perdido. I asked for what's at Pensacola Beach. I'm headed
That's
that
not what
way.
happened, man. They didn't ask. They just said,
I
hey.
wasn't there. I'm pretty sure
Hold
you
off on
weren't
the
there.
crosstalk.
I don't think that we can use those kind of analogies in that sort of way because, I don't know how the setup is there in the chamber and how Visit Pensacola staff sits. But again, it's a training issue. To me, that's not, we have to train people every day. And then we train them again, and we train them again, and they screw up, and we train them again, and we keep training them. So to me, that's just a training thing that maybe needs to be talked to, not, hey, let's shift all this money and let them try to reinvent the wheel. Visit Pensacola has worked hard to do what they've done over the last 7 years. And to me, as a hotelier, a bunch of folks in the industry got together that were competitors to say, hey, Chambers, you guys are not doing what we think an outside party like Visit Pensacola can do. And that's rare for competitors to get together and say, hey, how can we do something better? And we've seen it in the industry through the ups and downs, hurricanes, pandemic, oil spill. We've seen what Visit Pensacola has been able to put out there. Yes, maybe they need to tweak the Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat or whatever all these things are that people want. But that's, to me, that's just a learning curve. Like, you know, Perdido has to communicate just like Visit Pensacola has to communicate, and they have to talk together and say, hey, we want to see this, or we want more of this, or we want more of that. Not, it's easy to say, hey, I want X amount of money. Because if that's the case, then I would say, hey, I'm on Highway 29, I'm in North Pensacola. We need our own chamber, and we need tons of money. I need $10, $15 million for people to know where Highway 29's at and where Pine Forest Road's at. So I just think we have to do what makes sense, and we have to try to fix what's broke, not reinvent the wheel. So that's my little opinion on that.
Thank you. Any other comments? So I'd like to make a comment. And I have to agree, Perdido Key is definitely different than Pensacola Beach. So is Pine Forest Road. So is downtown Pensacola. All of the areas are unique. And what we as a community have challenged Visit Pensacola, the DMO, in doing is messaging those unique attributes to those different areas of our community. And so, you know, we can anecdotally say, well, nobody gives us any credit when there's, you know, when there is credit, when there is marketing on, about Perdido Key on Visit Pensacola's website, in the brochures. Maybe it's not enough. I do know there's a lot of photography of beaches that don't have Pensacola Beach or Perdido Key listed. And so I think from my understanding, it's a good way to extend the dollar twice as far. So if I take a picture of a beach and I post it and I say, enjoy our beaches, we're talking about the beaches in Escambia County. We're not talking about Pensacola Beach because it doesn't have a picture of the beach ball water tower, and it doesn't have a picture of you know, something out in Perdido Key. It is just a beach. And so come to Escambia County beaches. So anyway, my opinion of our position here is we recommend, the TDC is to recommend what's best in tourism to the county commissioners and for them to decide on how to spend the money within the law. I want to caveat that. But I'm not sure that we're the mediator between these two agencies who have a difference of opinions. Because if you recall, our very first speaker today, Mr. Tom Jardine, doesn't think that we're covering enough for Pensacola Beach. So Pensacola Beach residents don't think we're covering for them, giving them enough coverage. Perdido Key doesn't think. Highway 29 doesn't think. So nobody's going to be satisfied all the time. But I know we're doing a good job. I was part of the group of people who were working together to take tourism out of the Chamber of Commerce when the Chamber was blowing up and set up Visit Pensacola. I was actively involved in the writing of the bylaws for that organization and how the board would be built, et cetera. And actually, after it was created, participated on the marketing committee. I was never on their board. And so I know what the intent is. The intent is to be the destination marketing organization for all of Escambia County, which includes Perdido Key. Because that is a very important part of our community. Perdido Key, just like Pensacola Beach, just like downtown, just like the north end of our county, everywhere is all Escambia County. And so I don't know that we need to be mediators in this disagreement. I think the two entities, the Perdido Chamber and Visit Pensacola, need to communicate better together, not at each other or around each other, but together. And I don't think it's for this board to be the mediator and decide. If blows come to blows and nobody can figure it out, then maybe we do. But this time, I think it's a little premature for us to pull the rug out from Visit Pensacola and throw the money at Perdido, and also decide on what of their $1.4 million request, what's valid, what's valuable, what's necessary, and beneficial to the overall community. So that's just my opinion.
Mr. Chairman, yeah,
Yes,
I would ask what steps have been taken to this point by the chamber to work with Visit up until this point. I I'd have some interest in that, you know, do we work together, or have we worked together, that kind of conversation? And maybe moving forward, that's, you know, maybe we get an assurance from both teams that that's happening. But I'm with you. I don't know that we're in the business of mediators currently. I will say, to follow up, certainly, I'm a Perdido Key kid. I grew up out there. You know, I always think Perdido Key needs to be marketed more. I will say that. But I'm that kid. But I don't know that I'm about pulling stuff from Visit at this point. I think I think there's some room to grow on that conversation before we get there. Certainly. But maybe that's something we continue to look at, right?
Right.
So.
We're not doing enough RV.
I knew it.
The airport hotels don't get enough. The RV parks at the beach don't get enough. Nobody is satisfied. We're terrible. Meeting adjourned. So anyway, is there any other comment from the commission before we get?
No, I appreciate the conversation.
Thanks. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. All right. So moving on to the next item on the agenda is review and approval of the June 15th meeting minutes. They were distributed in the packet. Hopefully everyone has had time to review.
Second.
So we have a motion from Mr. Reeves and a second from Mr. Rivera. Is there any other comment or objections? No objections, please show them approved. All right, next item on the agenda is status of funds available. Escambia County Clerk of the Court and/or County OMB, or both together. Let them argue over the numbers.
No, we're a package deal.
Thanks.
Good afternoon, council members. I am James Baker with the Escambia County Budget Office. I'm a senior budget analyst there for them. Today I'll be presenting you with the status of the TDT funds through July 2023, and I believe the clerk's office has already provided you a copy of those. Again, same as last month, there may be a slight discrepancy just on the timing of the month between their reports versus ours. So the FY23 collections through the end of July total $15,774,410, as compared to the collections through July of 2022, which totaled $16,042,459, which is a collection difference of roughly $268,049 this year versus last. The FY23 collections through July total $15,774,410, are roughly 84.13% of the FY23 TDT budget, which is overall $18,750,000. The expenses through July 2023 totaled approximately $12 million, and the current TDT cash balance is $25.1 million, as well as the rolling fund balance is $25.1 million as well, ending out through July of 2023. So, all right, thank you.
Thanks. Any questions? Comments? All right. Thank you, James. Stefan, you have any? You're good? Does anyone have any questions for Stefan? We should make him come up. No? All right, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, Florida Sunshine Law, Public Records Act, Code of Ethics. Ms. Huell, Deputy County Attorney, welcome to the stage. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm Kristen Huell with the County Attorney's Office. I put a handout up on the dais. That is a presentation that was assembled by the Attorney General's Office, and it is available on their website in addition to a host of other resources regarding open government requirements in the state of Florida. And I find that to be a particularly helpful presentation that very succinctly summarizes the Public Records Act and the Sunshine Law. I know you all are very familiar with both, but I will just give a very brief overview. The Sunshine Law is codified in Chapter 286 of the Florida statutes. The purpose of the Sunshine Law is to provide the public with a right of access to all governmental proceedings. The meetings of this board are considered governmental proceedings that are subject to the requirements of the law because you have been appointed to this advisory board to act on behalf of and at the direction of the Board of County Commissioners. The law has 3 discrete requirements. All meetings must be open to the public, there must be reasonable public notice, and there must be minutes taken of the meetings. So what constitutes a meeting? A meeting is any interaction between 2 or more members of this council to discuss a matter upon which foreseeable action may be taken by the council at a future meeting. And interactions include not just face-to-face communication, but any email, text messaging, smoke signals, you name it. Any form of communication is considered an interaction, and if it involves board business and it involves any other member of this council, then it may only occur at a publicly noticed meeting that complies with the requirements of the law. There are some exceptions. The law does not apply to your interactions with your staff liaisons, provided that staff is not used as a conduit to communicate with your other members. You are also permitted to provide, ahead of a meeting, a written opinion statement that may be distributed, and I would suggest doing that through your staff liaison, to the other members. And that is not considered a violation, provided that there is no back and forth communication regarding that communication, unless or until it is presented at the following meeting where you can discuss it during the meeting. The law also does not apply to your social interactions. So you can discuss anything that doesn't pertain to board business outside of the Sunshine, and that is not a violation of the law. A knowing violation is a second-degree misdemeanor. If convicted, may be sentenced to jail and or fined, and you may also be suspended or removed from your position on the council. An inadvertent violation is a non-criminal infraction, and you may be fined up to $500. If a violation does occur, the board must take independent final action at a subsequent meeting to cure the violation. However, curing the violation does not shield the individual or individuals who may have violated the Sunshine Law from being prosecuted. So if you do not know if your interaction is subject to the Sunshine Law, then I would suggest not having the interaction, or ensure that it is only occurring at a publicly noticed meeting where there are minutes taken. The Public Records Act is codified in Chapter 119. Under the law, a public record is defined very broadly to include all documents in any physical form, characteristic, or means of transmission made or received pursuant to law or ordinance or in connection with the transaction of official business. The Florida Supreme Court has interpreted the definition to encompass all materials made or received by an agency in connection with official business used to perpetuate, communicate, or formalize knowledge. The purpose of the Public Records Act is, much like the Sunshine Law, to provide the public with a right of access to all public records. Under that definition, your personal notes that are not used to communicate knowledge to someone else are not considered a public record. So if you were to take notes during the meeting and you've not shared those with anyone, then that does not constitute a public record. However, virtually anything else that you may make or receive that involves your participation on this council is most likely a public record, and that document must be retained. And in order to do that, I would suggest that under any circumstances, you always forward anything that you think might be a public record to your staff liaison, who can then serve as the custodian of that document. Knowing violation of the Public Records Act is a first-degree misdemeanor, and if convicted, you may be sentenced up to a year in prison and or fined. I also, did anyone have any questions about Public Records Act or Sunshine Law? Okay. I was also going to touch on just a few A few things in the Code of Ethics. As public officers who are appointed to serve on this advisory body, you are also subject to certain provisions of the state's Code of Ethics as well as the county's Code of Ethics. While you may be subject to all applicable provisions by virtue of being appointed or elected to serve in some other capacity, many of these provisions do not pertain to you by virtue of your service on this council for various reasons. Because it's an advisory body, there are several exemptions. Because of your service on this council, you're also not considered a reporting individual, and you're not subject to the expanded gifts law that requires disclosures, on and on and on. But I did want to touch on a few. Under section 112.313, that's the basic kind of code of conduct, and there are numerous provisions. But there are 4 that apply across the board to everyone, and 2 of which, I mean, the gist is, don't take bribes. Pretty common sense. Do not accept anything. It prohibits soliciting or accepting anything of value that you know or should have known is being given to you to influence your vote or any action you may take on the council. Another prohibits using your official position to secure a special benefit or privilege. And another subsection prohibits using information gained by reason of your official position that is not available to the general public for your personal benefit. So these are all very common sense things, but the other one I wanted to mention is the voting conflicts provision, and that is under section 112.3143. Because you are appointed public officers, the rules are a little bit different from an elected public officer, but there is a form that the Commission on Ethics publishes, and it is called a Form 8B, and it's available on their website, and it has all the instructions for when you have to disclose and how you disclose, but that's the form you have to file. And as appointed public officers, you may not participate in any matter before this body that would inure to your special private gain or loss, and that is interpreted to mean an economic benefit or harm, or that of your principal, relative, or business associate, without first disclosing the nature of the interest in a written memo on that form, and it must be filed with the person who keeps your minutes. And if you intend to participate in any way, meaning influence the vote or action before the meeting, then you have to submit that form before the meeting. If you did not know about the conflict or you did not intend to participate in any way, shape, or form before the meeting, then you can submit the form during the meeting or within 15 days thereafter, but you must come and disclose it, and then you have to abstain from voting. So that's and if you ever have any question about whether you have an actual voting conflict, you can always contact our office and we can offer advice. But the form is very explanatory and gives you all the instructions. Did anyone have any questions about the Code of Ethics or voting conflicts?
Any questions? I have one question.
Yes.
Related to conflict. If it's just a perceived conflict and not an actual conflict of personal gain or loss, financial gain or loss, any other reason, is there any other reason for a member to ever abstain from a vote just because they don't want to? Are we obligated to vote for any action item unless there's a conflict?
I hate to answer hypotheticals out of the context, but I would say that typically, yes, there is an obligation to vote unless you have a conflict that prevents you from voting.
Okay. Thank you. That's my question. Any other questions? No? Great. All right. Thank you, Ms. Huell. Appreciate it. All right, next item is on the agenda, Pensacola Bay Center. Michael Capps, come on down. You want to come give us an update, please, sir? Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. I know you have a full agenda today, so I'll try to be brief. Not a lot has changed, but do want to give you a quick update. We are working on the facility condition assessment of the building that extends beyond the internal condition assessment that we did. I'd also come back with some conceptual ideas and concepts of how to not just fix or update what hasn't been replaced. For example, our boilers are original to the building, so they need to be replaced. But this talks about how can we re-envision the space that's existing there, expand on that, and then the last one is flip the script, which is the grand redevelopment of the entire area, maybe putting something in the back parking lot, connecting it to the building, that kind of thing. The first draft just came in right before I came into this meeting, so I do have a call set up with the consultant and facilities. I've been talking with county admin staff through this whole process to make sure we're expediting that, as well as keeping in contact with Sunbelt Conference because they're very interested in this, as well as our hockey ownership group, all of our users of the building, because it's going to improve everything that we do. To give you a quick snapshot of what's happened recently, we had White Tie Rock. July 15th, Unite Gulf Coast came in. They had 4,300 people for 2 days. They also hosted some events at the Sanger Theater. They also worked with our local churches and did some food drives. So they not only just came in and used the building, helped generate some revenue for the building, but they also had a local impact in our community. We also hosted Sportsman's Night Out, which is done by Marcus Point Baptist Church. They brought in some of the Duck Dynasty guys and their family. Some motivational speaking, but a great event because they've outgrown their church. So now we can host over 5,000 where they were only able to accommodate 3,000. But it's a $10 ticket and every ticket gets a raffle chance to win. They gave away campers, tractors, boats, guns, bows and arrows, you name it, anything for outdoor hunting and fishing. The pastor there has really done a great job as far as the outreach in the community. We're glad to be a partner to help them support that event. We've got Island Fights this Friday night. It'll be an amateur event. And I'd like to touch on White Tie and Island Fights specifically because they are local, but they are regional. Our Island Fights partner he's doing an event in Jacksonville at ViStar Memorial Arena. He's done one in Milwaukee at the Bucks Arena there. He's done down at Florida Live in Miami. He's partnered with the UFC. He's extending our reach of Pensacola to the global fight game. But we have worked with them to put 7 dates on the books for next year in 2024, as well as with White Tie Rock to put 4 more dates on the books for next year in 2024. So again, good repeat business to change it up, help supporting our locals that can also go out and do shows elsewhere. Commissioner Burgosh, we got Godsmack coming up right after Labor Day. Sales are doing good. It's a great show with us, with Live Nation. For those that the business, Live Nation is a very big mover and shaker in the entertainment business. It's leaded into, and at one point I'll be able to tell you, but we do have another one next spring that's in that same genre. I am working on country. We're a little slow on that one right now, but I hope we can have some more conversation about that. After Godsmack, same week, we have 4 shows of Paw Patrol. So we go from hard rock to little kids. So we do all kinds of walks of life in there in the community. After that, we have a banquet, the potentially scheduled Best of the Bay. They do their awards ceremony with us. So again, a good food and beverage event to bring in locals and showcase them. It's during our slow time in the summer where we can make it affordable to bring them in and have that event with the large space. White Tie Rock will finish off our fiscal year in September 30. That'll be their last show for this year, but then we'll do another one in December. This is our Christmas special. With that being said, we are trending to stay ahead of budget by about $350,000. So still trying to push that needle and keep going in that direction. But while we are doing that, we are updating some of the things in the building. Our dressing rooms are getting a facelift. I enjoyed the 80s. The building opened in 85, but I like to say let's leave the 80s behind, because if we leave them there long enough, they're probably going to come back into form, and we're close to that point. And we are long-range planning. The building will be 40 years old in 2025. We're also working with our ASM team at the Pensacola Sanger, because they will actually be celebrating their 100th year of operation at the Sanger. Some projects that we're working on is the DAS cell phone antenna system. It should be completed in September. We do have one carrier on board already, and as of recently, our meetings in Oklahoma last month, we have the second carrier getting ready to come on board as well. So that's 2 cell phone carriers that will help increase the cell phone capabilities inside the building. That, compared with our Wi-Fi, really gets to enhance the experience for the fans that come in. But also with the cell phone, it does generate revenue to the bottom line of the building, because the carriers pay to be able to come in and do that. I mentioned the dressing rooms. We're going room by room, updating our light bulbs to LEDs. So every little bit can help. In addition to that, we are looking at the arena lighting would be the next phase, to go to true traditional sport lighting. What that does is, if you go to a football stadium anywhere nowadays, you got the red, blue lights flashing and all that kind of stuff, but they're also LED, so our power consumption goes substantially down. Parking lot, we're looking at resealing that potentially to give a new blacktop, so it's a better aesthetic look for what everybody comes in and drives around downtown. We're looking at updating our wayfinding signs in the arena. Concessions, we're getting ready to add a product called Wicked Kitchen. It is actually an alternative plant-based product line. They have 6 or 7 different products. One of them actually is ice cream. We got to test that out, but we're trying to launch that for this upcoming hockey season. We are working with the hockey team to upgrade our fan experience with a club lounge, which, if you've been in the building, the bottom ground floor, that first room off the main hallway, to create that as a different level of experience. If you went to Sunbelt basketball, it'd be something similar to that for all hockey games and every other event. We have added wireless APs at our gates to help with mobile ticketing. Those are just little small features that we're trying to help out. And we added Fuse charge stations. So if you are in the building and your phone goes dead, you can actually get a battery to hook up. You pay by the minute, and it's at max out. If you decide to forget it, it's $40 max, and you take the battery, you own the battery. But it's a great partnership that they provide those at no cost to us, that we can then give to give that opportunity. I mentioned the facility condition assessment. That's what we're really focused on. Other than that, we're going into hockey season in October. The season looks like it's a good schedule. And with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Michael. Council?
Can you tell us who the next hard rock band is? No, I mean, no, it's Godsmack.
It's a little harder than Godsmack, I can tell you that.
Okay.
Peter, Paul, and Mary. Any other comments? Council? No? Great. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Great update. All right. Next on the agenda is Unified Budget with Visit Pensacola. Darren? Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for the opportunity to come before you today to talk about the work of the Unified Budget and Visit Pensacola and the results of those efforts. I think we passed around a handout. We have some more over here on the table that talks about the impact of tourism, the visitor economy in Escambia County, and the role that Visit Pensacola and the Unified Budget has had in that process.
You broke us, David.
Okay. Great. One of the things we wanted to talk about is the role of our organization. Obviously, there's some comments that were made earlier in today's meeting that we certainly are aware of, and we've discussed as a board of directors. Jeff was right. We did have a meeting together with him and the Perdido Key Chamber of Commerce, and after which we called our own board meeting to discuss the role of Visit Pensacola, this request, and really what is the best outcome for Escambia County. Just that? Okay, great. Thank you. And we recognize that there are opportunities to do some things better. Even from that meeting, we went back and immediately fixed some things that were noted. And I will say that that's something that has always happened when there's been a concern or an issue, an opportunity raised by the Perdido Key Chamber. We sit down and we address it. In that spirit, we have a meeting with the Perdido Key Chamber of Commerce for 3 o'clock on Thursday. We're going to have an opportunity to address these concerns and talk about some of the different aspects that were noted and what we're going to do about it. I've got today staff here, I've got board of directors, I've got Showcase here, all as a commitment to listen what's being said, to understand those concerns, and as we find a path to move forward. Our mission as an organization is to lead, connect, collaborate, and communicate. And so there is opportunities here for us to do a better job, for me to do a better job, and I'm committed to doing that. When we were established, it was an opportunity to bring the TDT dollars together into one strong voice, and we take that responsibility very seriously. And that then became the unified budget that includes Pensacola Sports and ACE, and with this current budget request, we're asking to bring in the Historic Trust as that fourth leg to really emphasize the history of our county and the pride that our residents have all throughout, and making sure that that is a strong voice in our marketing efforts. So, we support the vision of tourism for Escambia County. We're that central agency that is responsible for building tourism for our destination. So just wanted to go through some numbers. I mean, I think it's really important to emphasize that the work that's being done is working. When you take a look at the TDT growth, it's going back to 2017 and forward, we're exceeding the promise that we made at the time that, hey, we're going to have 6% growth every year. And even with 2020, we look at the difference between 2019 and 2022 through the first 8 months of this fiscal year. When we go back and we just look at the first 4 cents, it's up over 40%. I mean, it's 10% a year growth. Overall economic impact is up, breaking $2 billion. And that $61.4 million number, what's interesting about that is net benefit to Escambia County. So that's taking the revenue minus the expenses for that revenue, and that's the net benefit to the county. Tourism is important for job generation in our county. We know that. A lot of times it's going to be a first job for somebody. Job numbers are up over 22,000, wages are up, and every 113 visitors that come to Escambia County is supporting a new job for our residents. We have a number of research companies that we can tap into, so what's really important for us is to show what happens with our visitation, to talk about the return on investment. So for the 2.5 million visitors that came to Escambia County in the fiscal year 22, this is how they broke out through their visitation. And it doesn't mean that they didn't visit more than one place. And they do travel, and they do explore, and they do have day trips. And you'll see that this often very much reflects what's happening with the TDT tax collections, where 38% is Pensacola Beach, 19% Perdido Key. Downtown is strong and growing stronger. You've got North End. Yeah, visitation that goes out to the east and west of us. You see that 8% of visitation is coming through the airport. And these are the numbers that we're able to track and share. Visitor spending, besides the overnight stays, we see more of their spend when they're in a market spent outside of our accommodations, $1.3 billion, up 4.4%. That includes our restaurants and transportation, groceries, attraction, and entertainment. And one of the things I wanted to share today was talk about vacation rental occupancy. So these slides come from Key Data, which is an agency that we work with to track the vacation rentals and includes the OTAs. And so this is rental occupancy, and you'll see that Pensacola Beach actually leads in occupancy, but we have several different destinations on this list. Perdido Keys at 64%, but as a county at 64%, we do lead our peers in occupancy. So better than Baldwin to the left, Okaloosa, Walton to the east. Another key indicator is length of stay. So you see here that Perdido Key has the longest length of stay of these destinations. Pensacola Beach comes in at 5.7. Pensacola comes in at 5.2. But the overall, the 6.3 average length of stay again leads many of the counties to the east and west of us. And I would say that the comment that just the national trends is what we're following. You know what's happened the last couple of years? We've been ahead of the national trends, and the national trend is finally catching up to what's been happening in Florida and in the Panhandle. The TDT tax collections is probably the ultimate metric, and so we always go back to is seeing how is work that's being done that generates the transient or the tourist development tax, which funds our organization, funds a lot of other programs in the county. Also is a good indicator of what's happening with local option sales tax. So to date, through June, collections are at $12.8 million, and you see again how those are broken out by areas of the county. So the return on investment is the question we get asked a lot. So the work that you do, how does it result in visitors and room nights and spending? So we have a campaign called the Early Bird. It's a winter visitor campaign that is to drive those extended stays during our shoulder season. And you can see here that from this campaign that just ran for 5 months, August through January, we're generating almost 2,500 flights, 11,000 room nights, over $2.1 million in revenue. And so for every dollar we spent, there's a $17.56 return on investment. And what I would like to do is share with you a long format video that we created that we then use pieces of it in our digital advertising for this specific campaign.
Hey Mom, I hope Pensacola in the fall is as nice as I remember. You're probably on the beach right now, but I just wanted to let you know that your grandson loves his new teachers. We have a little scientist on our hands. Okay, I'll talk to you later, Snowbird. Love you.
Hi, Grandma. Mom said you're in Florida right now. Do you see any herons on the beach? My teacher told me that great blue herons live in Pensacola and that their wingspan is 6 foot long. And if you see one, it's good luck. Okay, I love you. Bye.
Hi, Camille. It's Joe from Groundskeeping. We're expecting snow up here tomorrow, so we'll be by to plow your driveway at 5 a.m. Thank you.
Hey girl, we missed you at book club today, but I know you're having an adventure down in the Sunshine State. Call me back, I've got some drama to share. Kisses.
Hi, Grandma. Guess what? I learned that there are oysters in Pensacola and that they can filter 50 gallons of water every day. Isn't that cool?
Hi Mom, Owen got your package today with the painting of the blue heron. He put it right up on his wall next to all his other science posters. And thanks for for sending those photos of you and Dad. It looks like you two are having the time of your lives. I'm so happy you two have the beach to call home this time of year. We love you, and we'll see you soon.
So in that, we showed areas that were Perdido Key. The final setting there was at the Eden Condominiums. We're at Floribama. We were downtown. We showed the ferry service. We had a beach scene that could represent all of the beaches in Escambia County. So when we do these things, that was always part of our process. And what we're excited about is then this long format video can be broken down into smaller 15 and 30-second pieces that we use in our digital marketing. If I can get back. I would be happy to.
Please, no comments from the public.
I have two more things I just want to share. I'm going to leave this up as it is so I can get to the other slide. That's what I'm missing. All right. So this slide here, we want to talk about all fiscal year 23 marketing efforts year to date. This is, well, October through May. This again is our digital marketing campaigns. You can see the number of flights, room nights, travelers, and revenue, and that trackable return on investment for every dollar spent has grown even higher. We're really excited about doing some niche marketing where we're sort of special interest marketing, where we're looking at some of the activities that are available throughout the county. And in those cases, we're seeing some of our highest return on investments. With that said, I wanted to close with something that, an event that we had back in March. We have a wrap report for the Sun Belt Conference Basketball Championships. So I wanted to share that video with everybody and talk a little bit about what that event brings to Escambia County. Yep. Is it possible to get the video on this video? I apologize for the glitches in the audiovisual, but the Sun Belt Conference Basketball Championship has been the epitome of collaboration involving Escambia County, the city of Pensacola, Visit Pensacola, the hard work of Pensacola Sports, and of course the Bay Center and Michael and his team to create a great experience for those student athletes. It continues to grow. We went from 12 schools to 14 schools, both men and women, and we're excited about them coming back again in March. And again, we're looking to do more of this kind of work. Our role is to connect, collaborate, communicate, and I feel that certainly our commitment to Perdido Key, the Perdido Key Chamber of Commerce, is right in line with that, and I'm looking forward as an organization, as myself, to make that happen. So happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thanks, Darren. Any council members have questions or comments? Great report. Thank you. All right. Next item of business is under other business, public facilities funding request. Commissioner Bender. I think everybody has a packet in front of them. And Commissioner Bender would like to present it. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is something that I've had our facilities working on and looking to move forward in a design build project. But one of the things that I felt was lacking on Pensacola Beach was the ability for a beach facility for changing rooms. And so oftentimes the bathrooms under the public safety building, they get wet, hot, damp, muggy, but they're also bathrooms that people go in to try to change. And so to have a separate building immediately in front of the bathrooms, adjacent to the showers that are currently there, so someone could shower off, walk up the ramps to the women's or the men's side, and change. There would also be family changing rooms on each side, so that if a mom has 2 or 3 kids, they could all go in there, or the dad has the kids, we could do that. So there are, you all had BOCC projects as a line item in the budget last year. So this funding would come from that. So this is not a request for additional money. I'm just asking for the blessing of this board to proceed with this project.
Second.
So
For discussion.
we have a motion for Mr. Reeves and a second for Mr. Rivera. Any comments?
No.
Any questions or comments?
I think it's a good
Tish?
idea.
Yeah. Well,
My kids will love
Thank
that.
Yeah. So again, this is primarily a tourist project, and again, it's a beach park facility that would be done.
So I have a question. How much?
Yeah, I was going to ask. That's a follow-up question.
didn't put
I
that
thought
in
somebody
there.
say for discussion
Right,
on this. Yeah.
I think we had $750 that was in the budget. We hope not to use all of that, but again, I'm not looking to ask for any more than what's been allocated. And then if there was additional, we would like to try to maybe paint the public safety building to match the other paint scheme that we've done with all the bathrooms and things like that. Just have a consistent, fresh, clean look that would match this new building out front.
Yellow and blue for the Blue Angels.
Sorry?
Was that yellow and blue for the Blue Angels? Asking for a friend. Asking for a bunch of friends.
Yeah.
So are you saying it will be built exclusively, it will be paid for exclusively with tourist development tax, no other funding source?
Correct.
LOST or any other money?
Nothing at this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the timetable for this?
We hope to go ahead and send it out, having the design build. That would save some of our time in procurement, and we look to have a purchase order and everything done by the end of the fiscal year to allocate the funding that was done this year by the end of the fiscal year.
Further question. Have we done this previously? Have we funded something to be built previously? Have we done that?
I don't know about yes. We built the Bay Center.
Bay Center, fair enough.
So, but beach park facilities, last year or 2 years ago, we spent some money remodeling the bathrooms and the gazebo roofs.
Yeah, those were remodeled. This is a full
steps.
The pavilions had new roofs. We had new grills put in. Again, matching paint scheme. You have bathrooms at Park West. I think bathrooms at Park East. The bathrooms at Casino Beach. Did the painting of the beach ball, which I haven't heard anything about it lately, Darren, but the new IMAX movie with the Blue Angels is I think scheduled to come out pretty soon. So the beach ball was painted right before they shot all the IMAX video of the beach show. So I think the beach ball will look great in those IMAX theaters and the views of Pensacola Beach.
So we have this design, but it hasn't been out, it hasn't been bid yet? to
No,
see
this is
the
just
proposed-
sketches that we've done in-house or not in-house, but we did it a little, we paid for it with just, small little things, but it would be the design build would actually design the engineering design drawings.
But it hasn't been sent out to bid to
So-
get
It has
prices
not.
or anything, so
So
there's no
what is the
estimate on price.
vendor cinder gonna cost?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
We had 750 in the budget. I don't know what's going to come back as, but it's, we're looking at using composite instead of wood to avoid splintering and things like that. I have asked about exhaust and fan circulation to make sure that the water doesn't pool. But I would say we're also planning ahead if we ever need to do it for bathrooms that we'll have, we're looking into that to make sure that we don't pigeonhole ourselves if we ever wanted to expand this in the future with bathrooms. But we are looking at it just being a changing room facilities right now.
Did you get a number?
I did not hear a number.
No, sir.
I understand we budgeted $750,000 in BOCC projects, and he intends to use it all. That's what it sounds like.
So it's going to be 750.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner?
Yeah, Robert, I know we had that discussion and we have a placeholder, but, there's quite a few restrooms that need attention in Perdido Key as well. So, this might change when we have our meeting. Or there might be other things added, since we're going to start building stuff in nature centers. We're going to more clearly define those. So, just so you know.
Yeah, beach park facility, so just 5A5 of the statute, so.
Will we be able to replicate this and put it at beach access number 4 in Perdido?
Good question.
I think that'd be great. Again, if it's designed to where it could be converted into bathrooms, then maybe you could do that as well and add bathrooms.
Mr. Rivera, you had a question?
Just amend, I second for discussion. I'll second to move on.
Oh, no, I thought you had, somebody said, Tish, you had a question.
I got a question, and that may be for both commissioners. Is there any other funds like LOST or anything that can pay for these types of things at Pensacola Beach and Perdido Key, besides just what's been set aside? I know it's BOCC.
Yeah,
It's been set
I'm
aside.
not aware of anything that's set aside right now for this type of project.
Well, we always have our local option sales tax. However, like we do in most things in government budgeting, we try and utilize these funding sources to the maximum flexibility allowed. So our local option sales tax, I'm not going to speak for my counterpart, he can speak for himself, but for my part, I'm doing drainage projects. I'm doing road projects. I'm doing sidewalk projects with my local option sales tax. We're doing economic development, which rises the tide and floats all the boats. But, the answer to the question is we all have individual local option sales tax funds. Robert has some. Those can be utilized for this as well. But I don't disagree with his rationale. In fact, you had asked if we built things. We built Access 4 with TDT money, and it's been a smash success. If you drive there anytime, it's all kinds of license plates from everywhere but Florida. Alabama, Mississippi, all over all the place all the time. So that's the answer to the question.
Yeah. So I'd say on my LOST, I think I'm spending some on looking at studying the parking garage on Pensacola Beach. Infrastructure, drainage, just like Jeff said. So I also used it to put in the access road on Pensacola Beach to help fund the extra cost that was needed to actually finally get the project across the line. So I think Jeff has more than I do left, but.
Yeah, the local option sales tax, the portion the county collects, it splits a piece of it with the city of Pensacola is about $100 million a year in collection right now at this level. Am I right?
That might be a little high.
I think, I thought the 1 cent was like 45.50.
Oh, no, it's
when we passed the referendum.
Stefan, what do we got?
When we passed the referendum, it was like anticipated to be about 60 million.
We got the man who can answer the question.
2017.
I know the half penny is generating over 30, so we're up there.
That's for the school district?
Yeah, and we have a half penny in general revenue that we get as well,
So,
sales tax.
yeah, I think we were the low 40s maybe 3 or 4 years. I mean, that was 3 or 4 years ago.
I mean, it's definitely getting up there. It's a good funding source. Stefan, are you able to find such information?
I knew we could get you to the microphone.
Good afternoon, Chairman and council members. I knew you missed me. So, so fiscal year 22 year end, we collected about $68 million for the Board of County Commissioners and local option sales tax.
That's for the county commission.
That's after the city gets their cut.
Correct, correct. That's not the total to the county, but just for the board.
So do you know what portion goes to the city by any chance?
I do not have that number in front of me, but it's
About a
probably
third?
closer to the number that you were saying. It's got to be in that ballpark.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any further discussion? No? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Since we're voting to spend money, why don't we do a roll call?
Jeff Bagash,
Yes.
James Reeves,
Yes.
Mary Hoxing, Shirley Cronley, David Bayer,
Yes.
Ronald Rivera,
Yes.
Matish Patel,
Yes.
Tanaid Broughton,
Taniade Broughton, yes.
Casey Jones.
All right, thank you, Board.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is the county ordinance and resolution follow-up item. I brought this, put this on the agenda because the county commission, as you recall, in March, brought up the proposed ordinance change and the proposed resolution. We asked the county commission if they would let us at the TDC discuss it since it affected tourism, and they allowed us to discuss it. We had it as a discussion item in our April meeting and made the recommendation by action to support the ordinance, but we opposed the resolution. At last week's county commission meeting, the ordinance was passed and the resolution came back up for discussion and possible action. There was some public comment. I spoke about the resolution. I opposed to the resolution, announced that the TDC had taken a vote and opposed the resolution. And they had some discussion, the county commissioners had some discussion and sent it back to us for further discussion. And in the meantime, and I forgot to pass this out, so may I give this to you, Danielle, to pass out, please? And I'll turn the mic over to Commissioner Burgash to discuss the commission's perspective. But yesterday I had a meeting with Chips Kirschenfeld and Tim Day with the Natural Resources and Marine Resources Division and discussed the marine resources budget and what portion of it they believe to be tourist development versus other general operating expenses. Thank you. And they gave me a schedule that they split out that Danielle is passing out to everyone. And I think I made a few extras in case not enough for everyone. But Danielle will get this up on our website if anyone wants to have a copy of it that they can download there. But
What is your recommendation?
so, well, what I wanted to show you was in the right-hand side of that spreadsheet, you can see where they were showing a portion of the marine resources budget is for tourism development, could be linked to tourism development. And so they were saying about 52.4%. That just happened to be the number on their total budget. And 47.6 was the calculation. But it's roughly it's $198,303 of their budget, the marine resource budget that was tied to TDT, they believe justifies the use of tourist development tax, that the role that they're playing is directly impactful on tourism. and the other $179,974 was not. And so I know there was discussion at the Board of County Commission meeting that it would be, they would, if it wasn't funded with tourist development tax, they would have to fund it in the county's general revenue, all or none. And that was never the case. We know that in our discussions we've had, that a portion of the Marine Resources Department is developing tourism with the reef program that they have, the ecotourism with the turtle nests, and other things. And so I think, in my conversation with them, I think this is accurate. This is what they say is related to those items that develop tourism. And my recommendation is to support this moving forward, these amounts. And with that, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Burgash, and hope I didn't steal any thunder, but.
Well, no. This is perfect because, as you know, you were at the meeting and you spoke, and then the board had a very thoughtful conversation as well. And look, we're trying to work together and strike the balance. We had an audit. The audit, pointed some challenges, some things that we needed to really tune up, and this was one of them. And, stepping back from it, it was easy to say, well, the whole thing would be justified. But in reality, when we discussed it and broke it out, not every bit of what we were doing with marine resources was for tourism. I mean, we have a lot of people. We have 350,000 people that live here and utilize the waterways too. So, but again, talking about the maximum flexibility of budgeting, there's rationale for doing it that way. So, with that said, but the spirit of the law and trying to get to the sweet spot, I think this represents a very good compromise. And appreciate your ability and your willingness to engage with Tim. Had the opportunity to communicate with Tim Day today, and it looks like about 52% is going to be paid for out of the TDT, and the county general fund is going to pick up the difference. And all the items that you've mentioned that are primarily tourist related will be covered by the TDT. So I think it's the right solution where we've landed. So I appreciate your willingness to work on that.
I second.
Well, I did not make a motion. As the chair, I made it. Oh, is that a motion, Commissioner?
I move we accept the proposal.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Oh, well, Mr. Reeves already seconded. Is there further discussion? So one other thing I wanted to mention, this is under the agenda item of the resolution. So the ordinance passed. I think we're all happy. We all supported that. That's done. But the resolution was related to designating the county as a nature center. And the purpose of the county wanting to designate those areas, all the waterways, inland and Perdido and Pensacola Beach, was to be able to continue to use the tourist development tax more freely, if you will, within those areas. They were still going to have legislative findings that they met the use of the tourist development tax and they were items of tourism development. So they were still going to have to meet that standard. The other things in that proposed resolution, mowing and maintenance services for Escambia County's public beach park facilities. In the Auditor General's report, it stated that they may or may not be tourism related. They just didn't have documentation prepared to say they had findings that they were to support tourism. There was a robust conversation at last week's Board of County Commissioners meeting where they said, for sure, landscaping at the beach, making sure that the environment there is welcoming, is developing our tourists. That is obviously where we have roughly 35–40% of our tourists, and so we need to have the landscaping done there. So as long as they document it properly, that should be a legitimate tourism expense. Repairs and improvements for Pensacola Beach public park facilities, bathrooms, pavilions, they don't need a nature center for that. That's already an authorized use in the statute, and that's what we just approved, Commissioner Bender's request. Beach access improvements, Perdido Key, it's the exact same thing. We've already done it, beach access 4 in Perdido Key. Beach renourishment for Escambia County's public beaches, we already allocate $500,000 a year to that. That doesn't need a nature center designation. Up to 3% cost of tourist development tax administration, that's in the law, and that's the new updated ordinance. We don't need a nature center for that. So the issue really outstanding was the marine resources. There was also Vibrio testing that was identified in the Auditor General's report. There was one year that the county administrator had budgeted the $60,000 for Vibrio testing, and that was $30,000 two different times. They only did the testing one time. They decided that Vibrio is everywhere. It's just like bacteria is on everything we're touching right now. And so there's no point in doing it. It's everywhere. It's not here, just here. It's in Tampa Bay. It's in the Atlantic, everywhere. And so, so they quit using the tourist development tax for those testing. So my point is, we don't need to designate anything as a nature center because the only item that was really needed to designate the tourist for the use of tourist development tax was the Marine Resources Division, and that department has broken out this expenses and saying these are definitely tourism related, these are not, and this is how we can split the money, and we have the money in the budget. So
what is your recommendation?
well, you have a motion, and my recommendation is in support of your motion. But I wanted to just, my recommendation, which is not a motion, is to disregard a resolution for a nature center and just accept this division of the marine resources using tourist development tax versus general revenue. Well, thank you. So there is a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, we'll call for the vote. Those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much. All right. Next item is the Auditor General's report follow-up item. I added that to the agenda to discuss. One of the things the Auditor General identified was all these expenses we just talked about, including the purchase of some ATVs and some and a truck. And I included in the packet a handout related to the county's recent action to approve purchasing a truck for using tourist development taxes to replace a truck that they already had, using it in the, for natural resources, Public Works Department. And it was $44,094.50 for the Marine Resources Department. I don't know exactly how the vehicle is going to be used. And Tim, do you want to come up and speak to it, if you would, please, on how it's going to be used? I do know it supports the Marine Resources Department, and it's going to be used for some of the items that are tourism related, but not sure if it's exclusively or how we.
Yes, certainly. So just, and I missed the very first part of your
I'm sorry,
conversation.
I should have mentioned your name before I started.
One of the things, it was a truck that was replacing one previously purchased with TDT funds. The difference between the settlement on the old truck and the new truck was about $7,900. So that's the new TDT ask on that.
Oh, it's not the 44
no,
or 52,000?
It was about $7,900 was the difference between the settlement that was deposited late, or maybe 3 or 4 months ago back into our TDT account. So the full expenditure happened, but most of it came from an insurance settlement.
Got it.
So
Okay.
the replacement cost $7,900.
Okay. And how will this truck be used? Is this truck to be used to pull the boat, to
Yeah,
go
it's-
monitor the reefs or install reefs, or?
Correct. It's utilized primarily by our sea turtle person, so he'll utilize it to transport UTVs to make sure they're the right spots for our volunteer force to be able to get where they need to go. He uses it where he needs to get, I mean, primarily it's to Pensacola Beach, Perdita Key, and then utilization for pulling the boat.
Okay.
So it's,
Okay,
yeah, I mean, it's primary transportation for those primary activities that we're already paying for.
all right, thank you. Any comments or questions? No. No, the county's already approved it. They've already issued the PO for it. All right, thank you. One other item, update on the Auditor General's report. Y'all recall you authorized me to send a letter to the clerk asking for a 10-year audit on the items that were identified by the Auditor General on how much tourist development tax had been used on those items and the percent each year of the administrative fee that the clerk's office retained for administration. And I have heard nothing from the clerk in response to the letter. We also asked her not to spend the money in those manners that were not properly documented or unauthorized under the statute. And we see in these reports that the dollars have continued to be spent, and she's authorizing the payments of all of those as she did before the Auditor General's report came out. So I don't know what authority we have or what action to be able to take. And we've sent the letter asking her to communicate with us, and the clerk is just refusing to communicate with the TDC. So apparently, either she doesn't take this board seriously. Oh, she's here. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
What would you like, a 10-year audit?
Yes, ma'am, as we requested.
It's not something that I will do, no, sir. If you would like some backup, you can refer to Stephen Hall. He can give you some backup of what was budgeted, what was spent. There are also formal audits that's already been done. Every year has had a financial audit. You've also personally taken time to go get the JLAC audit. That has been done. I don't think it needs another audit, so I decline to audit. I will not cease and desist payments, because when the Board of County Commissioners passes it as tourism, they are the governing authority. You are not. You are an advisory board. So that's where I stand, sir. That's my report in person.
Okay, so when the Auditor General identified those items and their finding 3 and their recommendation, their finding was that those may or may not be tourism related because the county commissioners did not make any legislative determination that they were in support of tourism, and you continue to spend those. Are you
Yes,
saying
sir.
that
I will
because they
continue to
said
pay.
it, they said to spend it, but they never actually gave it legislative finding that it supported tourism, you were okay with spending it,
Sir,
paying those?
when we had an exit conference, they said those expenditures are allowable, but the county did not demonstrate fully and clearly their determination on tourism, which is why they are going to have to do it at the board level, each and every expense. You are correct. They do not need a nature center resolution because they are going to have to pass every expenditure with a determination. What I did as a clerk is I pulled all their emails, their websites, their conversation, board meetings. I backed up letters from the county attorney, backed up the board's determination through other means that it was an eligible expenditure. That's why there were no findings on the clerk's side, and all of the findings were on the board side, telling them, do not do a look back. Go forward. You have 18 months to get procedures in place to have clear determination at the Board of County Commission level on all of the expenditures that are TDT. So if you decide it's not tourism, but the Board of County Commissioners does, I will pay that bill.
Okay. Well, that's all I had to say about that. Any other questions or comments about the Auditor General follow-up? All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the General Chappie James Memorial Foundation. And Councilwoman Tenyade Broughton.
Turn your mic on. Turn speak. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Y'all have the fancy ones. We don't have these at City Hall. So today, I would like to, first of all, Mr. Dosef, you can direct, any questions, like he'll be back.
Yes, if you'd
so
like to speak, have someone speak.
Please.
Please call them up.
So in short, you all know this process began around 2018. The original plan was to get the bridge and the statue to complement what's the Flight Academy and the museum. You see some of the people. Oh, wow, those people are all in my district. Okay, thank you for coming. To honor General James. I know there was a lot of discussion, a lot of controversy even, but everybody was able to work together, and now we have the bridge, we have the Flight Academy, and we have the museum. The Museum and Flight Academy was recently awarded how much was that? From the African American Heritage Preservation Grant? Well, I want to get the numbers right.
Approximately 150,000.
Okay, to build the new addition to the museum
Correct.
and to build a new addition to the Flight Academy. And we were able to, and I say we because this is really how I started as a part of this group. We were able to find the money as we needed to. At the time when they came before the county, they were told, you go find it and we'll give the last bit. So now they found it and they're coming here today for the last bit. I'm gonna let Mr. Dosef answer any questions.
Sure. Are there any questions from the board?
Chris, how much, I know you guys have been very successful raising money and getting money from the state. How much are you short to finish up what you got to finish?
The 750.
You need 750.
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
In the big, excuse me. Excuse me. In the big scheme, that'll put us right at $2 million, and that would literally construct. We got about 575 yards of concrete we had to put together. It's going to be a pretty impressive structure. It's going to be about 10 foot high. Walls are about 14 foot. And then this is the engineering concern. We got to put an F4 Phantom on a stick, right? It's going to be about 30 feet in the air. And that F4 Phantom is about 60 feet long and about 50 foot in wingspan. So you can imagine coming across that bridge. First, you'll be directed to the flag, which is going to be on a pole 80 foot high. We'll direct you to the aircraft, and then the statue of General James, which will be sitting on a 10-foot pedestal, and the statue itself will be 10 foot high.
I've been asking questions about this, and one of the only issues we have is if it's on privately owned land. But I believe this is FDOT.
All city land. It's City Pensacola.
Okay. Okay. Perfect.
And so with further maintenance and concerns, we specifically designed the plaza so that there would be no associated landscaping on the plaza. All that landscaping will be taken care of by the City of Pensacola in and around, but FDOT has already incorporated our plan into their plan. So if you look at the state plans, our actual structure is on the plan, and so they anticipate it being built. And and so does Senator Broxton, and the governor. So.
Well, let me ask you this. So 750, are you thinking that the TDT should fund that entire amount, or you don't?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Why? Because according to the numbers from FDOT, you're going to have over 60,000 people crossing that bridge every single day. And when you take that into account, now granted there are a number of repeat travelers, right, because they come to work in Pensacola, but even D.C. Reeves was saying to the fact that there may be 100,000 people coming across that bridge. And I would think over time, given as nice as that bridge has been built, I mean, it really is very comfortable to drive on, that I think you're going to see a lot of people coming in, and that's going to be your entry into the city. And what's most significant about it is it relays a very, very, very unique message to everybody coming into Pensacola. And that message is that we honor our heroes, and we specifically honor General James. And if we can't honor him here in this community, please don't expect anywhere else in the country to honor him. Now, I know he's a graduate of Tuskegee, and they honor him there, but as President Reagan said, General James had 4 stars on his shoulder, but 50 stars in his heart. And that's who it is we want to honor.
So, Mr. Chairman, where would this money, I guess we should get Stefan up here. That's a big hit. You need it all at once, I'm assuming, or can it be staged?
Well, no, our project timeline, again, considering weather, right, would be a 90-day build with, say, planning for 120 days due to weather delay. I would like not to start construction before October 1st, right? Because of the heat, because of current engagement of our contractor we've selected. He's told me that in process of collecting the materials we'll need, he needs at least 4 to 6 weeks. And that has to do with forms and the steel that we're going to need to construct the foundations to hold the aircraft and the walls. So, everybody, just 6 months earlier, 9 months earlier, that wait was almost 4 months. It's been cut down considerably as a result of construction and such, so. Yes, ma'am.
I've got a question.
Ms. Carlin.
What is, you've got a $2 million plus budget. What is the breakdown from where is the
Okay,
dollars?
sure. I've got that here. Unfortunately, I haven't got copies for you, but if you, the statue and pedestal, the city has given us $250,000 for that. The F4 Phantom, total, this includes a transport, the refurbishment, the relocation and installation, and the pedestal is budgeted for $250,000. We've already received $50,000 from Boeing and $50,000 from individual donors. And I'm going to be going back to, and I'll address that just here in a second. I'll be going back to other defense contractors after this meeting. The plaza itself, we have budgeted for $1 million, $100,000 for engineering, and that engineering includes all aspects of the engineering, to include the flagpole and the aircraft and the statue, and the construction at another $900,000. The lighting and security, because we think that's a very critical element, because the bridge is so well lit, right? We want to complement the bridge with the plaza. The flagpole's got to be lit. We want the aircraft to be lit. And so that budget item is $120,000. And we specifically have just presented to Impact 100 to allow them to have that opportunity to fund that, right? It's what's nice. It's a nice package that they can claim ownership of. The flagpole is $50,000. A company named Montway has already provided us the funds for that, the $50,000. They transport vehicles across the country and for most of the major vehicle manufacturers, and they wanted to take credit of being given the honor to place that flagpole, and we have that flagpole in our possession. We've already purchased it. We have a contingency and overhead totaling right at $250,000. Why? Because of what's happening with concrete costs, and they've subsided, but at the same time, when it comes to engineering and mounting that aircraft, we don't have absolutely detailed costs because it requires it's a little more complicated than that, and that's why we have, I think, a healthy contingency set aside for anything that might come up that in the process of construction. So that total is $1,920,000, but like I said, we're at say $2 million for round numbers. We've collected $600, $700 from the state, so we're $1,300,000, say.
Off the top, just a couple of questions too.
Yes, sir.
Same. How long is the lease how long is Visit Pensacola's lease on that building, Darren? Okay, I just want to make sure there's not going to be, a Taco Bell there in the parking lot.
That's all.
Here in 6 months, we got General James and a Taco Bell in the parking lot, which, nothing wrong with Taco Bell. And I don't want
If you don't
offend
mind, just
anybody, but-
allow me to give you one quick description of the area, though. That's a 13-acre park. All right? You have gazebos there that need to be rebuilt, but it's 13 acres with a significant amount of parking. all right? And that building has been really well done. I mean, the Visit Pensacola building is very attractive, very open to events. And so, you know, I think this would most certainly complement and drive business to that building. Because people are going to come across there and go, hey, what's that? Let's go see it. And they're going to go in and they're like, what is this? Oh, there's Visit Pensacola. And the whole thing really is one big promotion effort, right? It's not just a matter of promoting Pensacola, it's promoting Pensacola through the legacy of General James. And that's how we see it as a connection.
A couple of additional questions I have as well. Did we help fund this initially? I thought I remember, I thought we gave some money. I thought we gave $100,000 to this originally, didn't we?
We haven't funded any of it. We've had this discussion.
Have we kicked it a couple of times?
And we've kicked it.
Okay. And so then the follow-up question, the city of Pensacola gave how much?
$250.
$250?
Yeah, and I believe there's another, with part of that is another $150 in reserve, right?
And then the follow-up question that, of course, is, Jeff, you guys haven't given anything at your level yet, have you?
You know what?
The county has not, no.
Yeah, I don't believe we did. We had one former member who was deathly opposed to it.
Oh.
And he's gone now.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I think
Really?
the rest of us are. Yeah, it's crazy to hear. Chris knows who he is.
Yeah.
But the rest of us
I had
are.
nothing to do with that, just saying.
Well, I know.
Remember, the organization was told that if they went and got the rest of the money on their own, that's why the county didn't give it to them. They said to go get it on your own, and then they would come back.
Here? Did we say that?
It
That
was-
sounds like something I'd actually particularly.
Not here, but in the county level.
Okay.
But you know,
Something I particularly might say.
I want to make sure I publicly acknowledge the efforts of Senator Broxson.
Absolutely.
Because he, first and foremost, he said, you know, if you get these resolutions, you pass these committees, and you get to, and if you convince us that the community would like to see this bridge named after General James, I will carry that legislation. And that's exactly what he did. And on top of that, he said, please submit a request for funds. I suspect I could have submitted a larger request, but I thought I didn't want to be greedy about it, and I wanted everybody to have buy-in on this. I wanted the state to have buy-in, I wanted the city to have buy-in, and I want the county to have buy-in. And believe me, I intend to make an appeal to the folks in Santa Rosa County too, because in essence they share, you know, this bridge with us. I just haven't had the chance to do that yet, and I wanted to make sure that I got things taken care of here so we could start construction. But we have no intention of stopping our fundraising efforts, because the brochures I passed out to you before, there are 3 components, right? The one was getting the bridge named, which was accomplished. 2 was building this plaza, and then 3, get community, say, support to fund activities at the Flight Academy. We want children from this community to enter into the air industry, whether it's aerospace or whether it's commercial tourism or commercial activity in the aircraft industry. But that's what we're hoping to be a catalyst for.
Can we ask Stefan? Stefan, which penny would this come from? Tell us about the balance. What does this do to Visit Pensacola's advertising budget? I'm going to be very supportive, but you know we got to figure out where the
Of
money's coming
course. Keep in mind, as they say, right, if you want to sell cars, you got to have a big flagpole. We want to sell Pensacola, we're going to have the biggest flagpole in America, you know, or at least in Florida, here in Pensacola.
So Stefan, before you start digging through the numbers, first of all, I think this is a great project. I think it's going to be beautiful and a great way to honor a great man. So thank you for all the effort that you and your team have done to bring this to fruition. Yes, thank you everyone in the audience that's helped. But my question was whether or not it's actually an authorized expenditure of tourist development tax. And in order for it to be, it has to have a primary purpose of developing tourism. The statute outlines things that can be spent on building a sports facility, marketing, some other things. And then it says it has to have, the local government has to have a legislative finding that determines that it is primary and directly to develop tourism. And so I asked the deputy county attorney if she could find anything that, like there's attorney general opinions, et cetera, if there was anything that would help support this project. Kristen, will you come up and speak to it? I know you don't have a whole lot to say about it, but what you have, would you please share?
So looking at the plain language of the statute under subsection 5, in my opinion, I do not see any particular subsection in which this particular project would fall as an authorized use, because I wasn't clear about who owned the underlying property, which you say would be city-owned. However, it's my understanding that the improvements, the memorial itself, would be owned by a private nonprofit.
No, it'll be owned by the city,
Okay.
to include the statue, all elements. In fact, the aircraft is leased directly to the city. They will not lease it from the Air Force Museum to anybody else other than the city or Veterans Group.
Well, I was not aware of that aspect. However, it would still have to fall within one of these categories. And I did not find any legal authority construing the TDT statute that would, at least, you know, it doesn't constitute a museum. It is not, well, and actually under 5A6, we don't qualify for that, which is what, it's pretty broad, just talks about public facilities. So it's not a, let's see, auditoriums, you've got the convention centers, sports stadiums, sports arenas. Other than that, it boils down to expenditures that would constitute the promotion or advertisement of tourism, and in which case, I think funding would be authorized to promote an event, provided that it is going to promote tourism, such as a ribbon cutting or something of that nature. But to pay for the facilities for a memorial plaza, and I will admit, I did not know the ownership aspect. I assumed it would all be privately owned. But still, I did not find any authority.
Happen to see this? Tourist Development Plan adopted.
I'm sorry, where is that from?
This is from the Tourist Development, let's see, 90-57.
That's our Code of Ordinances,
Yeah.
which was just amended.
Yeah, it says the tax revenues received pursuant to this article shall be used to fund the county tourist development plan, which is hereby adopted as follows. Components. The components of the tourist development plan are as follows in order of priority. The acquisition, construction, extension, enlargement, remodeling, repair, improvement, maintenance, operation, or promoting of one or more publicly owned and operated civic, arena, sports, cultural, convention complexes within the boundaries of the county.
That's, I think, tracking what's in the statute, which actually that provision was amended with this most recent amendment to the ordinance. Where is it?
So, Kristen, we couldn't call this cultural tourism?
Right.
I mean, that's kind of what I.
Which provision?
So Kristen, would we be able to ask, would the county be willing to ask the Attorney General for an opinion?
I think it would be wise to request an opinion from the Attorney General's office.
To see
And
if we
that's what
could
I
spend it.
suggested when you had asked the question before, because I'm not able to find any established legal authority, and
Can this board request an Attorney General opinion, or does it have to be the Board of County Commissioners?
I think we have to,
I think it would have to come from the Board of County Commissioners.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we recommend it to,
So
Do you guys want me to bring that to the next meeting?
I would, because I'd like to figure out if there's a way for us to support this project.
So under, under the plan, even as amended, what's in the plan states the acquisition, construction, is this what you're reading? Extension, enlargement, remodeling, repair, improvement, maintenance, operation, or promotion of one or more publicly owned and operated civic arenas, sports, cultural convention complexes within the boundaries of the county.
So would this fall within
Yes.
as a definition of a complex?
Yeah, I would,
It's, so, but I think,
you can have.
Convention
art there, you can have
complex?
Public events there, you could have concerts there, you could have all sorts of events on this, because it's gonna be 160 feet long, 75 foot wide.
I took that to mirror what's in 5A1, 1A, which is publicly owned and operated convention centers, sports stadiums, sports arenas, coliseums, or auditoriums. And that's in the TDT statute. And we, of course, by ordinance and in the plan, can't go beyond what's authorized in the statute.
Right, right. And so that's why I asked the county attorney's office to just let us know, because we've spent the last 2 years really talking about what's authorized and what's not authorized, and we don't want to make any missteps moving forward. And, but we want to
And I
find
can
a way.
certainly take another look at it, knowing now the ownership, and see if that may change the equation, but from what I recall, it did not. It still
Okay.
did not fit squarely within any one of the subsections.
Would this board like to ask the county commission? Would y'all support asking the
Absolutely.
county commission to ask
Absolutely.
the attorney general for an opinion?
Absolutely,
Whether-
minimum, at minimum.
Councilwoman?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question here on this 3A, and I don't know if yours is different from mine, but it says, in the acquisition, construction, and so forth of the publicly owned and operated civic arenas / sports, cultural convention complexes within the boundaries of the county, there is a museum complex as far as cultural.
There is a what?
There's a museum complex.
Right, so we need to, we need
That
to,
would- and I'm- and if
we
that-
need a
if
ruling on
that
whether
falls
this
under
meets that
cultural. If that falls under
definition.
cultural, that's a question?
No.
No, I don't think that's a question, whether it's a cultural complex. I think that's,
Or museum, I mean, her argument is that it's museum.
The museum is 3 buildings. It's the museum, it's the actual museum, it's the Flight Academy, and there's about to be an extension constructed. It'll be 3 different, it's formerly a complex.
On this,
on this property, or are they
It's
separate?
in the county.
Yeah.
And here it just
So,
says,
but those
within
don't,
the
those are
boundaries of the
separate.
county.
But those are separate buildings. And we're talking about spending tourist development tax on this facility, this monument, and whether or not
This
that
just
meets
says
the
within the
definition.
boundaries of the county.
Right, it's all, right, the facility that we're spending money on has to be within the county. But we're not spending it on the museum or the Flight Academy, we're spending it on this monument that we're
and
proposing
it
to.
is owned by the city and will be
Here
owned
it's-
and maintained by the city.
Yes, the city owns the museum. And here it says the promotion of one of them.
An agreement with us to maintain the plaza,
Okay,
okay? But we have no ownership.
okay.
So the city's going to maintain it after it's completed, Chris?
With an agreement with us, right? Because what I mean by that is because you can't expect the cities that know how to clean airplanes, right? So we will make it, we will have the provision, we would be providing the city those services to clean the aircraft once a year, to say power wash the deck, replace the flag when it requires replacement. So there's a general maintenance that needs to be set aside for specifically the monument and plaza, right? And
So your organization's going to fundraise later on down the road, and you guys will give back that service to the city, is that correct?
Right, and that's
Okay.
why I said that we're looking to
Okay.
raise at least the 2.5 million, so we
Right.
have that
Okay.
set aside.
Okay.
We're figuring it's about a $6,000 a year cost for maintenance of the project. Because we don't have to worry about the landscape. That's all going to be taken care of by the city.
Okay.
You want to talk to
So-
numbers?
so do
Do you
we-
want to talk numbers, or?
Well, if it's, I think we need to determine whether or not it's an authorized use before we even identify which numbers. I think if it is an authorized use, the Attorney General will tell us that, and she's pretty quick on doing those opinions, I believe.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to say that when this process first began, and the organization was told what they needed to do each step of the way, they were told that this was the appropriate step. And something that I've noticed in this process, just my observation, it seems that there's been a lot of cat and mouse. And I strongly believe that, well, I may not say strongly believe, it seems disingenuous because they've done everything they needed to do. People didn't think they would get all those signatures. I was one of the people knocking on doors getting signatures. They got the city and the county on both sides of the bridge to agree on something, which you all know is very rare and hard to do. They brought everyone together, and here it is, when they do everything that they were told, they come before this board, who they were told this was the appropriate board to come to, correct?
Yes.
And now, it's just another hiccup, just another, I'll just say, deflection, when this was the promise. So I'd be interested in learning why you were told you needed to come here, and now why you're being told that this is not where you're supposed to come.
I'm not exactly sure why. I mean, from the cultural standpoint, I think it satisfies that agreement. Whether or not a facility has a roof on it, I think is inconsequential. It still can be considered, I mean, an open-air arena, right? I mean, Maritime Park doesn't have a roof on it, for crying out loud, right? And so and you would consider that a cultural center, right? Because people play baseball in America. So I think, in my opinion, I think that we have a very strong argument here. I think that I can't imagine anybody claiming that this would not fall under tourist development and falling under the cultural provision of that document. And particularly today, when we're looking to try to unify this country, I think this would be putting a big flag in the front of Pensacola. It wouldn't hurt anybody, especially one flag, our American flag. So thank you. If there's any other questions.
I don't have any other questions, but I don't think anybody on this council has said that we do not want to fund this. What we said is what we're trying to do is verify that these funds actually may be used to fund this project. We were told originally this group was going to raise all of the funding through private fundraising efforts, that they were not going to use any public dollars for this project. But here we are with a $750,000 request. The city has funded $250,000. The state has funded $700,000. So I take personal offense about this cat and mouse conversation. I think there's been a lot of conversation, and this whole thing has been very fluid. I think it's a great opportunity for our community to recognize General James and his effort and the work that you guys have done in bringing the plane down here, getting it rehabbed and painted and everything set up is just a Superman effort. I mean, it has been unbelievable. We just need to make sure that we are authorized to spend this money this way. And just because we think it may meet the statute doesn't mean it does meet the statute. And if it does, the Attorney General will let us know. And then we will be here talking about what dollars we can spend on this project.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, I mean, with that said, I would like to know if $750, I think, is it a reasonable ask? And two, if we do get, say, the green light from, is it Mrs. Moody, that's the Attorney General we're talking about, then would we have to wait another 2 months before we meet, or is there something that can be done in the process? Because I'm prepared, let's just put it this way, if I knew I had the money coming, I'm prepared to start signing contracts. I'm ready to start initiating what I would need to initiate to get people to start working. Because even though it's August and October may seem a little further down the line, it's going to be here tomorrow. And it's going to require me to get those things in line to get people working and get this thing done. Ultimately, I mean, in a perfect world, if we were funded and we had this done, we were looking to have this thing done, say, first quarter of 2024. And why? We would invite the currently selected Joint Chief of Staff, General Brown, who happens to be a black 4-star general, fighter pilot, okay, and probably may have even been introduced to General James to be our honored guest and speaker for our actual dedication event. That will have national repercussions. People around the country will be made aware of that, and we will make every effort to nationally broadcast it. And so I think, and it'll be a very positive message, and I think that's exactly where Pensacola wants to find itself.
Any other questions or comments?
No, but I would like to know if we get to a point where this is an authorized expenditure, then where we would, which penny we would draw from and what that would do to the other. I think Stefan got sidetracked.
Do we need to queue up the other gentleman here?
Hey, well, Stefan's on the way back, so we'll just see.
There he is.
Yeah, and guys, I'll bring it. I believe the board would approve that because we'll make that request. But the only other issue I would say is that can be a lengthy process. I mean, once you send it over there, I mean, it might take a minute to get back. But where would we pull this 750 from to finish this off?
So Commissioner, we've got about 1.3 million in the first two pennies.
Okay.
Again, there has to be a finding that this does support tourism. But again, we've got about 1.3. Again, this is not in the TDT reserve policy per the policy that's been adopted. These are unrestricted reserves in the first 2 cents. So we do have that amount available.
Okay.
And the first 2 cents would be the proper pennies to spend on?
Correct. You can, again, so if this is considered tourist promotion, technically you can use any penny.
Okay.
But since we usually do these type of allocations, out of the first 3 pennies, that would be the right place.
Okay.
All right.
So Commissioner, you'll bring that to your board?
At the
request?
very next board meeting, we'll bring that up, and I think we can make that happen. But we'll just be at the mercy of, however long it takes to get an answer from her office.
Well, you were chumming it up this last week with her. You should have a direct number.
Well, I mean, I don't have the direct
I'll be more than happy to drive to Tallahassee tomorrow and present her something hand to hand, if that's what you need me to do. Believe me, I've already been to the Air Force Museum. I've been all over the country trying to promote this thing. So driving to Tallahassee is an easy drive. And if I need to pick something up from your attorney to ask Ashley, I'll be more than happy to do it. Thank you very much.
Chris, before you go, I want to tell you something right here. I am very happy with your commitment to this project. This is your life's work. This will turn out to be your life's work. You've done a lot of things in your life, but this will be your life's work. And I think you need to know, walking away, that this board is committed to this. And to some degree, we just got to find out that we're not breaking the law. And I think we're going to find out very quickly that we are all on board here moving
Thank you,
forward.
Ronnie. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, man.
And Chris, I'll just say too, for the record, we went through the whole committee process and everything, and look, you come out of these issues and people don't always win, but you were able to get a lot done, and I admire your commitment and tenacity and your passion, and I think it's going to be a great thing when we're all done, and hopefully we can put together the last piece of the puzzle with some team.
I hope so. I hope
It's what's
so.
good for Pensacola. It is what's good for Pensacola.
For the sake of Liliana James, she talks to me every night, right? Thou shalt not quit. And so I'm reminded constantly of her commitment to the children of this community, to her family, and I believe that this is an appropriate gesture on the part of the community to honor her son. Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you. All right. No other comments about that item. Next item is closing remarks. We'll start with Commissioner.
No, I'm good. Good meeting. We got a lot done. I appreciate everyone being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary?
I'm looking forward to resolution on the Visit Pensacola Perdido issue. So I think we made some progress today.
Thank you. Shirley?
I just appreciate everybody's hard work in trying to get that resolved, and I know both parties will, so thanks.
Ronnie?
Thanks for everybody being here, and tourism works.
Thank you. Tish?
Just want to say thanks to everybody. I know a lot of the Perdido people are gone now, but I think we're all Escambia County. And when you think Pensacola, I don't think Pensacola Beach or Perdido Key. I think all of us are Pensacola and Pensacolians. And so I think having better communication, and maybe even if it takes some of us on this committee to work in between the group to make sure that they're having good communication and that Perdido Key's made happy or whole, I think it makes sense. I just think better communication can probably fix the issues, how I feel. But overall, I think everybody's doing a great job.
Thank you. Tanyade?
Have a great evening.
Okay, thanks. Casey?
Just want to thank everybody for coming out. I appreciate the civic engagement that we had tonight.
Yeah, and I also want to thank everybody for being here. It was a large crowd, I think the biggest since I've been on the board. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, members, for the lively discussion, and industry members for your input. And Deputy Attorney, thank you so much for all your help tonight. All right. With that, meeting adjourned.